Hello there, and welcome to Liberty Church Manzini's Bible Reading Plan. Today we are beginning a look at the book of James. And I'm excited to be sharing with you some of what I observed and some things that I think we can apply, because I feel like the book of James shares with us some truths that are relevant to what we are experiencing as a church right now, to what is going on in our nation, and really the world over. So I've entitled this devo, Experiencing Joy Through Trouble. And we'll be reading from the book of James chapter 1 verse 2. Let's read together. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy." When troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. You know, that word "when" stood out to me. It stood out to me because the word "when" has got a feel to it that makes it sound like troubles are certain to come. You know, James doesn't say if troubles come your way. James doesn't say troubles might come your way depending on where you live in the world and depending on what kind of job you have, depending on, what kind of income you have. James says, when troubles come your way. So this speaks to me that troubles are certain to come. However, though they are certain to come, as humans, we rarely can predict them. This means that for us, troubles are often unannounced. Troubles for us are often inconvenient. Troubles for us often feel unfair. They feel like they came from nowhere. And so James here is speaking to us as people that experience unfairness, unannounced experiences, and is saying, when you are feeling like something is inconvenient, consider it an opportunity for great joy. When you are experiencing something that is unannounced, consider it an opportunity for great joy. Have you just lost your job? Consider it an opportunity for great joy. He says troubles of any kind. And that spoke to me because I feel like maybe I can experience joy when I'm going through a small kind of trouble. But James says all kind of trouble, all circumstances, consider it an opportunity for great joy. So it begs the question, how? How do I experience joy when just by walking outside of my house, I could contract an illness of which there is no cure? How do I experience joy when I've just been laid off? How do I experience joy when I'm in a small confined space with 3 little children and I feel like I'm about to lose my mind? That's probably the biggest one, right? How do I experience joy through all circumstances? And as I reflected on this, it came to me that I think the way in which we can experience joy is to have a different perspective. The word that James uses is the word consider. That word could maybe be reflect or think about this, or, as we consider it, we sit down and we look beneath the surface so that we can judge correctly, so that we can appreciate more than just what meets the eye. So as we look beneath the surface, I've got 3 reflections that could help us have a perspective that allows us to experience joy even while we're going through troubles. The first of those reflections is to remember, to reflect and to remember that God is still present. The psalmist says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I'm not sure what valleys you are experiencing. I know mine. And we can see valleys in the shadows and the fear of death that is coming across the whole world. But the psalmist says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So my encouragement is for us to remember that God is still present. He is as present right now as he was before the COVID-19 pandemic began. He is as present right now as he was before you lost your income. He is as present right now as he was before the routine that we have was disrupted. God is still present. I want to declare to us, Liberty Church Manzini, that God is still present. God is still on the throne. And as we reflect on that, we can experience joy because we know that our God is not defeated. Our champion is still on the throne. And so there's a reason for us to have hope. The second reflection that can help us experience joy through troubles is to remember, to reflect and to remember on that troubles have a purpose. Our troubles are not meaningless. Yes, they are trouble. Yes, they are genuinely painful. They are a disruption. They are an inconvenience. But our troubles have a purpose. And James, in the next verse that I didn't read, begins to tell us the purpose for which we experience trouble. And it's that when we have trouble, we get to grow. We get to be purified. When these troubles have left, we remain better than we were before we experienced them. So my encouragement for us is to remember, to reflect that God does not allow us to go through this just so that we can serve. But is that the testing of our faith produces perseverance. It produces a growing and a maturing in us that is so much more valuable than what we lose through going through the trouble. So my encouragement for us is remember that. Don't forget that there is a purpose even as we go through this trouble. Because when we remember the purpose, it helps us to have a joy begin to come up on the inside. Not because the trouble is not there, but because we can look forward to something better on the other side of the trouble. And then finally, I think a reflection that can help us to really experience joy is to remember that troubles will pass. I want to declare that COVID-19 will pass. Job losses will pass. Being quarantined and being in our home in small confined spaces will pass. I'm not sure what trouble you are experiencing, but there is no trouble that is going to last forever. We know that there is only one thing that is going to last forever, and it is this, the Word of God. So we can hold on to the Word of God even though there is uncertainty around us. We can hold on to what God has said, because when everything is shaken, there is something that we know will remain forever, and it is found in the Word of God. So I hope those three reflections help you to experience joy, and to not just experience joy, but to share that joy with others, because we know that God is present, we know that our troubles have a purpose, and we know that our troubles are only here for a moment, but God and His Word are with us for a lifetime. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for your presence through the trouble. Would you help us to experience joy even through the troubles? In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.